Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's start talking about negative exponents. Negative exponents are an offshoot of regular exponents. So let's start with x squared. If I have x squared, that means I have x times x. I have two x's that are multiplied together. Now, if I had, say, x cubed over x to the fifth, well, that would be x times x times x all over x times x times x times x times x. And in this case, cancel, 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 cancel. I would be left with 1 over x squared. Now, the problem is I don't really love putting x squared in the denominator. I say, oh, I don't like having my variables in the bottom. Wouldn't it be cool if I could move it to the top? Well, you can. That's where you get x to the negative second. Now, what this means is it's x squared, but instead of being in the numerator, it should be in the denominator. So if I have x to the negative fourth, that's the same thing as saying 1 over x to the fourth. Now, that's the same thing as saying 1 over x times x times x times x. And so don't flip out. If you see a negative in the exponent, it simply means I'm in the wrong spot. So if it's in the top of a fraction, because I can take any fraction and put it over 1, or any number and I put it over 1, I can take that and move it from the top to the bottom. Now, the same thing applies down here. If I have 6 over x to the negative third, well, it's in the bottom and it's negative. It says I'm in the wrong spot. That negative right there says I'm in the wrong spot. Needs to go up to the top, so it's going to be 6x cubed, and so I have 6 times x times x times x. And so it works out nicely. Now what's really interesting is when you get to something as follows. X to the negative fifth over x to the fourth, and so you come up with something like this. Well, this in the top says I'm in the wrong spot. I need to go to the bottom. This is in the bottom and it has a positive exponent, so it stays right where it is. And so I have 1 over all that stuff because the only thing left in the top is 1. But now in the bottom I have 5 of them and 4 of them, which makes 1 over x to the ninth. Now, once I have that taken care of, we have another option. What if I have different bases? Z squared there, x to the negative third, over x to the fourth, y to the negative third, z to the first. So let's see if we can break that down. Move it around, readjust it to make it make sense. So, with that, I look at this and say, y to the sixth, is it okay where it's at? Well, yeah, there's no negative exponent, so I'm going to leave it right where it's at. Then I'm going to say z squared. Is it okay where it's at? Well, I don't see any negative exponent, so I'm going to put it right there. Finally, I see x to the negative third. That says I'm in the wrong spot. So he's going to go to the bottom. Now let's go to the bottom. X to the fourth seems to be just happy where it's at. Y to the negative third, negative third, it's in the bottom, so it needs to go to the top. And z to the first seems just fine. So if I put these together, I have y to the sixth, y cubed. So if I can put those together, that makes y to the ninth. Now, I have 2 z's on top and 1 z on the bottom, so if I cancel 1 out of here and 1 out of here, that leaves me z on top, all over. How many x's total on the bottom? I have 3 and I have 4, so that makes 7. So I have y to the ninth times z over x to the seventh. Okay, so x squared means x times x. If I were to take these and divide things with exponents, like bases, we simply reduce and come up with 1 over x squared, but I don't like the squared in the bottom, so I can write it as x to the negative second, moving it to the top. If I have x to the negative fourth in the top, that means I'm in the wrong spot. It means I could flip this just like this went from the bottom to the top. This would go from the top to the bottom, which turns into this. Now, if I had something like this, where I have x's in both places, this one says I need to go to the bottom because it's negative. This one seems fine right where it's at. So when we regroup them, we can come up with 1 over x to the 9th. Down here, if I have 6 over x to the negative 3rd, that negative 3rd means I'm in the wrong spot. Move to the top, get this. Down here, let's combine some things. The y to the 6 seems fine. The z squared seems fine. That says I'm in the wrong spot, so let's go to the bottom. Down here, this one says I'm okay. Let's stay right here in the bottom. Y to the negative 3rd means I need to go to the top. So we move it up. Then z the first is fine. So then I say 6 of them, 3 of them make 9 of them. 2 z's on top, 1 z on bottom leaves 1 z on top. And finally I have x cubed, x to the 4th means x to the 7th on the bottom. Okay.